feeling come up in my stomach and felt sick, and I thought, oh, here we go again.
Check and see.
Check and see if she's had sex. And with that, she grabbed my crutch. Fred pulled up on the grass verge and turned around in his seat and just kept punching me across the side of the head. And I was knocked out. When I came through, they'd tied my hands behind my back with my scarf, and they were wrapping like parcel tape all around my head. They were telling me, if you just calm down, we're just going to make you a cup of tea, tidy your back up, and then we're going to take you home. And they did do that. They sat me down and they took the tape off me, undid my hands, and gave me a cup of tea, gave me a cigarette to try and calm me down. And I did then think, oh, this is okay, they've just made a mistake. They think I'm something I'm not, and I'm going to go home. And a few minutes later, after we'd finished a cup of tea, Rose grabbed hold of me and tried to kiss me on the mouth.
These are people, the Wests, probably got more joy, more satisfaction, more fulfillment out of what they did, these poor girls, than anything else in their entire existence. And the fact that they did it together heightened the value and the pleasure to them.
Fred was mostly watching. And then it progressed a bit further, and then they were both interfering with me. And discussing my genitals, and Fred was saying that there was something abnormal about my genitals, but not to worry because he could put that right.
If you look at what happened to her, you see the antecedents, you see the script, if you like, for many of the things that were to come later and to be enacted with the victims who were murdered most terribly.
And so they decide to stop and, right, we'll calm you back down now, we're going to take you home soon. Get me another cup of tea, take my gag out while I have this cup of tea, and a cigarette, and then it starts again.
The Wests used her for their immediate sexual gratification. That was important to them. They raped her, they dominated her, they controlled her. But remember, even at this stage, they were not in a hurry. They didn't expect to kill her necessarily, but neither did they expect her to be gone from them very soon. One of their weaknesses, one of their areas of being blinkered, is not really to understand that other people really are sentient, active people. And that means if they can get away, they will. If they can oppose, they will.
And so I tried to shout out. Rose put a pillow over my head and smothered me. First I was kind of struggling with it, and then I thought, no, just go with it. You know, you kind of give up. And it's just so easy to just let it go, just go off to sleep, and that's it, it's over with. Fred came back and pulled the pillow off me, and that's when they ripped me up by my neck. And that's when they threatened to kill me. They said, I had both these faces hovering over me. And they said, we're going to keep you in the cellar and we're going to let our black friends use you. And when they finished with you, we're going to kill you. And we're going to bury you under the paving stones of Gloucester. And he added that, you know, there are hundreds of girls buried there, the police haven't found them, and they're not going to find you.
Caroline was not alone. Evidence found with the remains of the West's victims suggested they'd been through something similar before their lives had been ended.
We found one knife. It couldn't have been the knife that dismembered them because it was a long bread knife type, which was a bit round-ended. It couldn't be used for that. And the other things, of course, were bondage materials, I suppose you'd call them. They were sort of masks of sticky tape, stuff you tape on parcels, wrapped around the head, and some plastic tubes which had been pushed up nostrils. Pretty bizarre stuff.
Remember, if you look at what happened to these young women, you see a progression of debasement, of mutilation. You see physical mutilation. All of these things are much more enjoyable when they can be repeated in discussion, in shared memory after the event. And this would be an area where Rosemary, for Frederick West, would be absolutely vital. She had enormous value to him.
In 1972, Caroline Roberts was raped, abducted, and nearly murdered by Fred and Rosemary West. They spared Caroline after she promised to stay silent about her ordeal. She slipped away at the first opportunity and went to the police. Still traumatized, Caroline was unable to face a rape trial, so the police charged the Wests with indecent assault. Fred and Rose were released with a £100 fine.
I think the most shocking aspect of the West case is that it ever got to being a set of serial killers plying their trade. Everything that we know about the Wests was evident in that first case that went before the magistrates all those years ago.
Instead of serving a prison term for rape, the Wests were free to murder Linda Goff, Lucy Partington, and Carol Ann Cooper before the year was out. From Caroline's statement, it was clear to the police that Fred and Rose were in it together.
She's a perfect mother.
Fred had been lying to protect Rose, who was still protesting her innocence. Now under arrest, Rose was summoned to the magistrates' court, where she would be charged jointly with Fred for 9 counts of murder. In court, Rose would be reunited with her husband.
On each occasion, she snubbed him, looked away from him, didn't accept his attempt at touching her or advances, and this clearly quite perturbed him.
Rejected and dismayed, Fred wrote Rose a letter.
Well, Rose, it's your birthday. You'll be 41. It's still beautiful. Still lovely.
On New Year's Day, around 1 o'clock,
We'll always be in love. The most wonderful thing in the world was when I met you.
West, using parts cut from prison blanket and making a very neat, snake-like rolled rope, which he very neatly blanket stitched.
I haven't got you a present. All I have is my life.
I was asked by the investigators, did I think there was any risk that the Wests might kill themselves or hurt themselves in an attempt to avoid justice, or if they tried to escape, or what their defence might be. And my view was very clear that Rosemary West, certainly before a trial, would never make any admissions. That although it hadn't been anticipated by folks years before, she psychologically was much stronger, much more intact than Frederick West ever was. She would not say anything. Frederick West was very different. If he learned that Rosemary was in fact repudiating him, then he would almost certainly try to kill himself. And Rosemary began to repudiate him, and so he killed himself.
Fred took the truth with him to the grave, and with no evidence linking Rose directly to the murders, it looked as if the Wests could escape justice. 25 Midland Road, the Wests' former home.
Sit on the couch.
Under cheap kitchen linoleum lay the body of a child. She had been there for over 2 decades until the police recovered her. 8-year-old Charmaine was Fred's stepdaughter. Her mother, Rena Costello, had been murdered by Fred and buried in a field at Muchmarkle. Charmaine had last been seen in 1971, the year Fred spent 9 months in prison, leaving Charmaine in Rose's care.
If it could be shown